Let's take a look at the hate list headline by Rhamondre Stevenson. Matthew, he gets a lot of touches, but he's averaging 2.2 yards per carry over his last 3 games. He's a touchdown-dependent running back right now.
That's correct, completely correct, Connor. In the 3 games this year in which he has not scored a touchdown, he's averaging 4.3 fantasy points per game. He is so touchdown-dependent. It is incredibly inefficient. As you mentioned, the 2.2 yards per carry, right? Well, so he needs to be in at least positive game script or at least neutral game script so that he can continue to, get into the end zone or have a chance here. Patriots have the second lowest implied team total this week as well on the road at Chicago. Bears, pretty good defense. They're actually not as good against the run recently as they had been earlier in the season, but still just doesn't feel like, again, it's a little bit of how lucky do you feel? If you think Stevenson gets in the end zone, then okay. But just he has a chance to crater your week if he does not score.
Rico Dowdle right behind him. Stevenson RB24, Dowdle RB26. The Eagles over the last 4 weeks, Jay, are allowing the fewest fantasy points per game to running backs. I don't know how much better things are going to get with Cooper Rush under center for Dallas.
Yeah, in theory, just a lot less space, a lot less attention that needs to be paid to the passing game with the much maligned Dak Prescott not being able to suit up, but Dak Prescott's still a massive upgrade over Cooper Rush. Rico Dowdle goes up against the Philly run defense. It quietly has turned into a real strength of the team. They're 3rd in the NFL in terms of rush success rate, so really strong there. I think this Eagles defense overall is just a much better unit than it was last year, where it just became a catastrophe. I think putting in Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean has really helped the back end there. I think that's just made the whole defense a lot more solid, and you wouldn't expect that Rico Dowdle is going to be in positive game script. At the same time, his path to value and to flex-worthy play is just being a PPR merchant when they're down, I think.
Right, he's gotten a decent amount of targets in the passing game, and Cooper Rush might be more prone to dump off than Dak Prescott was. So I have him in the flex range. I'm at running back 26, but given he had such a nice game last week, I think people might think maybe there's more opportunity here for Rico Dowdle this week. But Ezekiel Elliott, Jerry Jones saying on the radio that he expects Ezekiel Elliott to play this week as well. So he's going to take a handful of touches away from Rico Dowdle. And Connor, you mentioned when you introduced him that over the last 4 weeks, the Eagles allow the fewest fantasy points per game to running backs. Well, in that same stretch, every single running back that has faced Philadelphia has had under 12 fantasy points. So you're right. The way that Dowdle gets to, other than falling into the end zone, the way that Dowdle gets to being usable this week is Alvin Kamara-esque, just a bunch of dump-offs, but I don't know that
exactly what happened last week. Just a replica of last week. They're down the whole game, and it's not really competitive, but he still ends up with 5 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. Now, he's still not going to go 12 for 75 on the ground again, but the PPR work is what you want.
The PPR work, but, I think it was his 3rd receiving touchdown of the year, which is, so it's that's within the range of outcomes, but I don't know that you feel he's definitely getting into the end zone in this one as well, and I actually don't think the Cowboys get blown out here.
No, I think it'll be somewhat competitive. Micah Parsons expected back, still going to have CD Lamb.
Eagles are really banged up on offense.
Yeah, I think this could be close-ish. A one-score, a 7-point type of win, which is what the line is.
So I don't think, and I also think they'll be more methodical under Cooper Rush. I don't think they're going to be suddenly in hurry up, type offense. They're going to be more methodical, I think.
It feels for Rico Dowdle, 13 carries for 40 yards and 3 catches for 22 yards and no touchdowns, that type of game, which is okay, but not what you want.
Running back 26.
Travis Etienne, our final running back on the list here, RB33. Jay, he's got a 31% snap rate in his return last week. He had 5 touches. I know the rest of this backfield's had, a little banged up on the early injury reports, but Etienne, it's just not happening for this team.
I just cut him from the League of Arsenal. I just don't want him on my team. There's no one better
out there. You can't play him.
But just spiritually, I want him out. It just doesn't feel like he has a role on this team. Feels like he's constantly banged up. Feels like Tank Bigsby is the guy. Feels like they're constantly going to be down because the team is selling parts and is banged up and just isn't good. So I just don't know, in what world, in a 12-team league, when are you going to be starting Travis Etienne?
No, you need at least... I think the world in which you start Travis Etienne is a world in which Tank Bigsby isn't playing. If he gets hurt.
Yeah, so he's Isaac Garendo then.
Yeah, exactly. He's played 5 games this year with Tank Bigsby active, and in those games, he's averaging 8.1 fantasy points per game. This is a true running back by committee. You don't love the matchup against Minnesota. There's been 3 running backs, literally only 3 running backs all season long that have scored over 12 fantasy points against the Minnesota Vikings this year. And every single one of those running backs saw at least 19 touches. And I just don't know that the volume is going to be there for Travis Etienne because they do like Tank Bigsby. They do want to get him involved. And by the way, Dearness Johnson has carved out a small role in this offense as well. And so not that you're worried about Dearness Johnson's 5 touches, but like those are 5 touches that aren't going to Travis Etienne, whatever. So, I mean, there's one game this year. Week 2 of the NFL season, Travis Etienne had 16 touches in week 2. That's the only game this year where he's had more than 15. So I'm just saying, like, it doesn't seem like he's going to get the volume against this Vikings defense that's been a top 12 run defense over the last month. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.